very proud to put this on for the community and for all those online. Just a reminder, if you didn't know, this will be available after the event on the Village's YouTube channel and also Facebook Live. So for anyone there dozing off, you can get it again later. Just want to say a couple things about the chamber. If you don't know, we are located not far down the street on Neck Road. We are very proud to have a new office right on a main thoroughfare, and we highly recommend you come visit us and see what we are doing for the community and our businesses. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Dan. This is about our candidate. So thanks for coming.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. We say it's partially about the candidates, but as I explained to the candidates earlier, it's really about the people who came here tonight to hear the thoughts that the candidates have on various questions and positions, and those who are listening online. And I want to thank you personally for those who submitted questions. If you submitted questions, you may see it in a slightly different format because sometimes we have 3 or 4 people submit a question that's really the same question. So we try to grammatically put it into one sentence so it makes a lot of sense instead of asking that same question 3 or 4 slightly different ways, okay? But I just want to make sure that you understood that. Candidates have only a certain amount of time to express their thoughts on that question. There are 2 questions where they're given a little bit more time because they're a little bit more in depth. They will also have opening statements and closing statements that each of them will have an opportunity to do. We don't take new questions from the audience tonight. If you have separate questions for the candidates, are you both open? I should have asked this before. Are you both open to sticking around for a few minutes after? Okay, cool. So that you could ask some one-on-one questions. The candidates are usually very pleased to go ahead and do that. So this is an opportunity for you to hear candidates specifically stating what their views are on very specific questions. And I think it is one of the most wonderful opportunities for real democracy that we have, and it's in communities this size that typically do it again. Village of Jackson's doing theirs next week. West Bend does theirs, I think a little bit closer to the election itself. So sit back, take notes, and enjoy the conversations. Well, candidates, good evening and welcome. Good evening and welcome. And as we talked earlier, we'll alternate between candidates who answers a question first, who answers it second. With opening statements, we'll begin with Ms. Kiernan and then go on to Jeff Voyer for opening statements. And then we'll go back to the first question at that point. And a reminder, you have 2 minutes each for your opening statements. Ms. Kiernan?
Can you hear me all right? Okay. So hi, my name is Sharon Kiernan. I was a teacher for 33 years. All 33 of those years were at the elementary level. I worked in 3 different districts, MPS, Wauwatosa, and the Mequon-Thiensville School District. Throughout my career, I've worked as both a classroom teacher as well as in various specialist positions. My roles have included strategic planning, curriculum development, data analysis at both the building and district level, content area coaching in mathematics, so working with individual teachers as well as teacher teams. For several years, I did gifted and talented identification and programming and Title I mathematics. I've worked collaboratively with district and building level administrators to design and facilitate professional development. For 5 of the years that I was in Wauwatosa, I job shared, and during that time, I implemented 2 community outreach programs aligned to English language arts standards and guidance standards. One was a friendly visit program with students at a nursing home. The other was a senior volunteer program, which brought retired community members into our classrooms. These programs were partially funded by grants that I wrote. Throughout my career, I've been focused on serving students, teachers, and families, and that is certainly what I hope to do as a member of the Germantown School Board. My husband Tim and I have lived in Germantown for 30 years. Both of our children graduated from Germantown High School. If I get elected to the board, I would be the only member with a background in education. I think my perspective could really be helpful in generating outcomes that are in the best interest of our students and our community. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Kiernan. Mr. Voyer, your opening statement.
Hello, everyone. First, I would like to thank the Germantown Chamber of Commerce for holding this forum, and another thank you to all the residents who have made time to be in attendance this evening. My name is Jeff Voyer, and I am proud to be running for the Germantown School Board seat number 4. I'm a proud father of 2 daughters, Olivia, who is 6 and currently attending 5K, and Sophia, who is 3 and currently being enrolled in the 4K program. I am in this for the long haul, and I am dedicated to this community. I have been in builder, contract, and development appliance sales for the past 9 years, and in doing so, I have realized the importance of relationships and the proper ways of facilitating a deal. My belief in business is to always be honest, be fair, build strong relationships, and work harder than your competition. I am running my campaign on a few main pillars: a heavy focus on building core competencies in reading with an emphasis on comprehension, writing and math, transparency to our parents, maintaining our children's innocence, and not overburdening our taxpayers with overzealous spending. I look forward to answering your questions this evening, and if there is something not touched on, please feel free to message me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The first question, Ms. Kiernan, we will be having tonight is having you address what caused you to have the desire to enter the foray of public service. It is something that I think a lot of people consider, but then don't always pursue it at that point. So that's the first question. And Sharon, if you could answer that first for us, please.
So for most of my adult life, I've been involved in public service through my role as an educator. I think all of us in this room and watching online would probably agree that communities are stronger when our schools are stronger, and that schools play a key role in providing our children with foundational skills and dispositions for engaged, responsible citizenship. This idea is what prompted me to get involved in education way back in the good old 80s, and it's what's motivating me right now. As a retired teacher, I am deeply committed to public education. Germantown is a strong district, and keeping it strong is an ongoing process. I feel very ready and well-equipped and very motivated to support that process as a member of the board. Thanks.
Next on this question.
All right. First and foremost is my children. I knew since our oldest daughter was born and we had our roots planted that I was going to run for the school board when she starts. Fast forward 6 years, and I have followed through on my promise. My children are the driving force behind this campaign, and there is nothing as a father that I would not do for them or any other child in this district. Having 2 young children, again, soon to be K4 and currently in K5, my wife and I are going to be a part of this district for a long time. I am honored to have the opportunity to serve the people of Germantown, and my intentions are pure.
Thank you very much. On the second question, Mr. Voyer, you'll begin. And the second question is going to be, how do you measure success? Or how would you measure success if you're not an incumbent of the school district? And you can address this from a role as a school board member, citizen of Germantown, or as a parent.
Can you repeat that one more time? Is that an add-in question?
So nope, it's how do you measure success for the school district?
Got it. Thank you. We must always start with the educational outcomes of our students. We continue to monitor their progress, and the more we see high achievement and high growth, the more we know that we are heading in the right direction. I see success in the attainment of our staff and the dedication of our teachers, administration, and board. Lastly, the combination of staff surveys, parent surveys, standardized test results, along with the school report cards are great ways to watch and monitor our success.
Thank you, Jeff. Ms. Kiernan.
So our state gives us a lot of data to help us measure our success as a school district on things like attendance, participation for post-secondary preparation, and of course, growth and achievement. In addition to metrics like these, success, in my opinion, has everything to do with how students feel when they walk into school each day. Students should love coming to school. They should feel safe and supported and like they belong. And I think success has to do with how parents feel about these things too, and about how our community feels when they read about our schools in the paper and see things online. We have an incredible district here in Germantown, and there's always room for growth. By focusing on measurable outcomes like those on the state report card, as well as on the experiences of our students and families, we can ensure that every child has the opportunity to succeed.
Thank you much. This next question I want to clarify for the audience as well as for the candidates to make sure that we're all on the same page there. But the third question is, what skills and behaviors should the school district focus on developing and reinforcing to help parents prepare students for life in the workforce? But for both life and the workforce, excuse me. So it is a parent-focused question recognizing their role and the school's role in a support fashion. On this question, we will begin with Ms. Kiernan. Absolutely. What skills and behaviors should the school district focus on developing and reinforcing to help parents prepare students for life and the workforce?
Thanks. So as a school district, we need to ensure that Germantown students graduate with a solid, sorry, can you hear me okay? Solid academic foundation in all the core content areas, as well as things like financial and digital literacy. But that's not enough. Equally important are skills like problem solving, collaboration, and communication. No matter what path a student takes after graduation, whether it's college, the trades, or straight into a job, they'll need to know how to work with others, how to think critically and creatively, and how to adapt to unexpected situations and new challenges. These are the things that parents worry about, right? Parents, teachers, and the district all have a role to play in helping students build these skills and learn to be responsible. We need to work together so students can choose their path.
Thank you very much for your answer. Mr. Voyer, you're up to bat. And again, candidates, please feel free to ask for a repeat on the question anytime you want, okay?
Thank you. Number one will always be reading with an emphasis on comprehension, teaching accountability, owning personal progress and abilities. Also, coping skills around failure and realizing mistakes and how mistakes are how learning takes place and how to be open to that. Often the fear of mistakes prevents one from continuing to try something until mastery happens.
Mr. Voyer, you'll be first on the next question. So this will be the fourth question for the candidates, with continuing with the alternating between the two of you. Number 4 is going to be, what level of teacher involvement do you believe should exist in the decision-making process surrounding classroom and curriculum resources?
The district has outlined and is utilizing a curriculum review process. We have a new reading curriculum that should be the gold standard for all curriculum changes moving forward. During this, we have shown that our staff is provided with multiple touch points to lead or provide input and feedback. The classroom is one of the most autonomous environments once the door closes. This requires the district and staff to earn the trust of the community. The board's job is to provide policy that sets a baseline aligned with our community's expectations to help build trust. Staff is always allowed to provide feedback through the proper channels.
Thank you very much. Ms. Kiernan, you're up to bat on this one. Again, the question is, what level of teacher involvement do you believe should exist in the decision-making process surrounding classroom and curriculum resources?
So I feel very strongly that teachers should be involved in making decisions around classroom resources. The district decides on a curriculum, and teachers are held accountable, 1, for making sure their lessons address the learning outcomes and standards specified in the curriculum, and 2, for making sure students meet those outcomes. Now, along with deciding on a curriculum, the district also decides on a main resource to deliver that curriculum. Always within that resource, there are lessons that just don't cut it. We tie one hand behind the back of a teacher when we don't allow them to choose and use resources to more effectively deliver a lesson to their students. I've been in this position myself, and it's awful. It's very frustrating. Teachers should not have to jump through hoops in order to deliver grade level lessons that are relevant and engaging to their students.
Thank you very much. Question number 5, Ms. Kiernan, you'll be beginning that question for us this evening. And this one speaks to working with the village of Germantown and that portion of governmental authority within our area. So it is, how would you work with the village of Germantown to improve public safety in and around our community's schools? Again, how would you work with the village of Germantown to improve public safety in and around our community's schools?
So I think we would all agree that safety and security in and around our schools is absolutely critical, and that keeping our schools safe is a shared responsibility. As a member of the school board, I would work with our local police, first responders, and the village board to review safety plans and protocols that we currently have in place and to take a look at how they're being implemented. Just last month, Wisconsin released the second edition of its comprehensive school safety framework. This framework identifies model school safety practices and is designed for all Wisconsin school leaders to use as a guide to make their own local safety plans stronger and more comprehensive. As a member of the board, I would fully support working with the village to review our current plans and strengthen them in ways that our community feels are appropriate, using the state document as a guide. By working together, we can make sure our schools remain safe, welcoming places for all of us.
Thank you much. Mr. Voyer? I paused there for a moment so you could finish the drink of water.
Thank you. I would first like to acknowledge the great working relationship the school district and the Germantown Police Department have. Our SROs are dedicated and professional in their approaches in our buildings. We should also take a pause and note that 2 of our schools are located out of the jurisdictional boundaries of the village of Germantown. Both Amybell and Rockfield fall under the jurisdiction of the Washington County Sheriff's Office, so we may want to expand on this conversation to include them. Now, if we are talking about the utilization of more manpower, that's a matter that we will have to work through with the IGA, the Intergovernmental Agreement. If the school district is looking for more SROs and the police department is willing and able to supply, maybe the school district can increase their portion of the salary obligations for any additional officers beyond the current 2. Or maybe the school district can provide an overtime pay arrangement. This would allow flexibility for larger events that occur outside of the school day. There are a variety of technology-based approaches that could also be looked at. Some use AI to monitor the district through their current cameras or entry point monitoring. This work study should always occur with our local law enforcement's input as feedback. That was
Thank
close.
you very much. Well, the next question may have sounded a little bit like a softball question to the candidates when they saw it, but then they both acknowledged they had to put some real thought into this one. So yes, this is the favorite teacher question from your school days. I would argue that I bet you everyone in this room can come up with a teacher who impacted them in some significant way during their lifetime. I can tell you it was 4th grade. It was Mrs. Stein, and she and I disagreed over a math problem. I went back as a sophomore in high school and won. I found out later and this shocks Gilletta tremendously that I would do that. I found out later she had made a bet with 3 other teachers of how old I'd be before I came back to prove her wrong. So, wonderful, amazing individual. So the question actually is, who was your favorite teacher? And it could have been from the Kansas, it could have been from grade school or high school or college or whatever, but who was your favorite teacher? What made them your favorite? And how did they influence your life? So for that question, we begin with Mr. Voyer.
So my favorite teacher was John Hoke from St. Thomas More High School. He was my math and finance teacher, and he knew how to bring a real-world touch into the classroom that taught me valuable lessons that I used when I was starting out in business. He told me that I would be a success in business, sales, or marketing because of how I speak to people, connect, listen, and follow through. I value our friendship to this day, and I was honored when he endorsed me for this school board run. However, I'd like to throw this in for thought. As a proud father with our oldest daughter in kindergarten, her current teacher has been absolutely wonderful. She loves what she does, and that is clear to my wife and I. She makes school enjoyable for our children and all children in that classroom. I see the emails sent after hours recapping the day, sharing little personal experiences that keep the human aspect in her teaching style. I trust her, and I value her as an educator. And in our experience, many of our staff work in the same practices, and that is encouraging as a parent.
Thank you, Mr. Boyer. Ms. Kiernan?
One of my favorite teachers was Miss Oddie. She taught high school English and she ran a really tight ship. We all knew what to expect in her class and what she expected from us. Even so, the time we spent with her was never dull. Miss Oddie gave us choices about working alone or with a partner, and she let us move around the room, which was really different at the time. She ran her class in a way that made it almost impossible to be disengaged or to be a passive learner. And because of that, I learned a lot about sentence structure and grammar and how to write a strong argument to defend my opinion. Miss Oddie gave us choices within limits. She ran her class in a way that made room for everyone, and she showed us that everyone has something to contribute. I learned in her class that my perspective and my ideas aren't any less important or any more important than anyone else's. This is something that influences me to this very day.
Thank you much for both of you addressing a question you probably thought wouldn't show up in there, but I do think it's important. There's none of us that can walk through that many years of education without having someone who truly made a difference for us. So thank you very much. The next question I'd like to pose to both of you, of course, and Ms. Kernan, you'll be starting with it, is what aspect of the school district, if you were on the board, would you work to improve or increase, because this doesn't assume that there isn't transparency, but to increase a level of transparency, and how would you accomplish that? So what aspect of the school district, as a board member, would you work to increase the level of transparency within?
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So transparency is a means to an end, that end being trust. In any aspect of the district, you can never have too much transparency because you can never have too much trust. Anytime the district gets feedback from any stakeholder to indicate that they might feel they are being left out of the conversation, or that decisions are being made behind their back, or that policy is being implemented in a way that seems inconsistent or not aligned to the way it's written, or that information about something is not shared when it should have been, or when the question why is asked and not answered. These are the kinds of things that eat away at trust. These are places where more transparency is needed. Higher levels of transparency and trust require that those involved respond to feedback they've received in a timely fashion and adjust course moving forward. I would accomplish this by encouraging folks to do just that.
Thank you very much for your answer. Mr. Boyer, you are next.
Thank you. The board and the district already operate with an amazing amount of transparency compared to surrounding districts and government agencies. For instance, the board records and streams every board and committee meeting live. After the meetings, an email is sent out to all parents with a summary. In these meetings, they provide detailed data about staffing, curriculum reviews, policy decisions, and the financial status of this district. As a district, I always think that there is room for improvement, but this is an intentionalized focus. Unfortunately, sometimes for legal reasons, the district must utilize closed session meetings, whether it's for employee or specific student issues. This is the kind of transparency I like to see as a parent and a taxpayer. And I will continue with the same focus on transparency starting day one.
Thank you much. Mr. Boyer, you'll be handling this next question first, and it is, and this was submitted by several individuals within the community. To what level should topics of diversity, equity, and inclusion hold a place in our school district and its curriculum? And again, this is one of those questions where it was submitted slightly different from each individual, but we've taken the liberty of putting it in a single question. Mr. Boyer?
This question has a short and simple answer. None as far as the ideological political framework is concerned. I personally want the best teachers in front of our students, regardless of what race or sex they are. And subsequently, our staff should not address any student differently based on their race or sex. If you're asking, should the district ensure all students' educational needs are met? My answer is, of course. You cannot force diversity. The school district's community makes up what it is. Equity in reference to educational outcomes is an impossible task without lowering the bar for high achievement. Too many factors in the educational process require personal attitude, effort, responsibility, and follow-through. If those personal disciplines do not exist in someone, the only way to ensure equity is to limit others. Equality in education should be the focus on ensuring the same access to the same educational processes and experiences. It is up to the individual what they do with it. Thank you.
Thank you much. Ms. Kiernan, you are next up.
So when someone asks what I think about DEI, I always respond by asking, what do you mean? There are so many different ideas out there. I think it's important as a school district and a community that we remember who we are, descendants of all kinds of people from all kinds of places. We need to teach the history of this country, this state, and our local community here in Germantown accurately and in a way that celebrates how far we've come and that recognizes the challenges before us. We need to help our young people understand that not only is it the right thing to do, but it's to their benefit to be respectful and kind to other people, including those who might look, walk, talk, or learn differently than they do, or those whose lifestyle or family or belief system might somehow be different from their own. We have a responsibility to teach our children that this wonderful, strong nation we live in was founded on the idea that there's room for everyone at the table.
Thank you very much for both your answers. The next question, and a reminder to you that there are two that you have 2 minutes to respond to as opposed to one. This next question is one of those in which you'll have 2 minutes to each respond. Ms. Kieran, you'll be first on this one. And this is the question, what do you feel are the top 3 priorities of the school district and how would you fund those? So 2-part question, hence 2 minutes. But what do you feel are the top 3 priorities of the school district and how would you fund them? Ms. Kiernan?
So the job of our district is very simple. It's to ensure that each and every student enrolled here receives a high quality education. We do this by strengthening things that need to be strengthened and by really continuing to lean into things that are working well for us. A few priorities that I can see would be recruiting and retaining highly skilled, caring teachers and support staff. We need to strengthen the work we do to build trust and build support for the things that are happening in our schools each day. This involves transparency around decisions that get made and why they're being made. It's a huge priority for us here in Germantown, I think, that we have community buy-in with everything that we do. Increased transparency also needs to happen by clearly defining what do we mean when we say creating a positive learning environment. A positive learning environment for whom? If I'm a student in this district, when I walk into a classroom, what does it look like? What does it sound like if it's a positive learning environment? We need to be able to step back and see things through the eyes of different children. Our top priority in terms of funding things should be to make sure that every dollar we spend supports our mission of empowering each and every student to succeed. This is how we become a premier district.
Thank you very much. Mr. Voyer.
Without being on the board, it can be difficult to pick 3 specific things. However, this is what I have taken away from attending the board meetings over the last 2 years. First and foremost, we need to continue our focus on our financial stability. We are in a very sound and balanced budget, and if we continue on this path, this is how everything that I am about to list will be paid for. Investment in staff development as one. Once again, prioritization over budgeting these needs over wants. Strategic planning around facility maintenance and local housing developments. A continued focus on cross-district and vertical alignment, along with the focus on core subjects. Again, this will take a priority of budgeting these needs over wants. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question has some history behind it, and meaning, I think we're in the village of Germantown, Wisconsin, right? Well, there's a phrase that you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I did promise the candidates I would tell you the history from it. It is a first published in Germany in the year 1512, and it still holds the same meaning. Just because there's something that we don't like about something doesn't mean we throw the entire thing away. So what are the 2 or 3 things that you think the village and school district do together, or the 2 separately, if you believe, are doing well? So 2 to 3 things you think the village and schools are doing well. Remember, 1512. And this will be a 1-minute question. Nope, let's give you 2 minutes. I'm sorry. This is an add-on question for the audience.
One more time, please, just the way you stated that.
What are 2 to 3 things you think the village and schools are doing well and why? We'll give you up to 2 minutes to respond. And you will be up first, Mr. Voyer.
Sure. I can correlate this a bit with question number 7. I think we're doing well with retaining our teacher staff. We're at 93%, and among state and national norms, I think that's a great thing. As far as what we're doing, I see a vision for the future in our 2050 planning. I hope that in reading so, and if I can access my phone because I have some notes. Thank you for your patience. Second here. I can't find it, but either way, there's a lot of emphasis on what the school district's, involvement will be, and I hope to see more of that. I try to attend as many of the village meetings as I can in concurrency with the school board meetings, and it feels there's a touch of a divide, and I'd like to see more of a bridged opportunity there between both. That's what I'd like to see, but I think both aspects are doing well in involvement. We just need to maintain involvement.
Thank you for answering an add-on question. Appreciate it. Ms. Kiernan, you are up to bat next.
So my husband and I, as I indicated earlier, have lived in the town of Germantown for over 30 years, and we raised our kids here. And both of them turned out really well, if I do say so. The schools have so much to do with the sense of community. And that is something that I think over the past 30 years, that has remained really strong. Germantown's an awesome place to live. We do have really strong schools. We have a strong village, and people are nice here. I mean, people enjoy working together, and it's just a great place to raise a family. I think that as our community continues to grow, it's going to be really important to hold on to that small townness that makes our Germantown community what it is.
Thank you much. This next question, Mr. Voyer, you'll begin with. And this question is also 2 minutes in length, available. And it wraps around with the rapid growth of Germantown and planned housing growth on several sites. How should the school district plan for that? And how would you work with the village of Germantown on this?
I believe that the school district needs to continue to stay engaged. Changes have been implemented over the last year that gave the school district a seat on some of the committees, which helps bridge the school board and the village board. It is my belief that this relationship needs to be strengthened because we serve the same constituents. As a board, we need to stay active and make sure the village understands how their decisions impact our schools.
Thank you. Ms. Kiernan, you're next.
So planning for growth is a huge responsibility and something the district needs to approach thoughtfully. As our community expands, we need to ensure our schools are prepared both in terms of space and resources to continue providing a high-quality education for each and every student. This means that the school district needs to plan in a proactive rather than a reactive way. As a school board member, I would attend village planning meetings and stay in close communication with individuals on the village board who are involved in the planning process. This would allow me to more fully understand growth projections, timelines, and decisions that are being made at the village level. Planned housing growth and increased enrollment bring both challenges and opportunities. By working closely with the village and planning ahead, we can make sure that our schools grow in a way that best serves our students, equips our teachers, and enriches our community as a whole. And again, as I said in my earlier response, we're growing, but keeping that small town feeling is really important. Thanks.
Thank you both for those questions. There is one other question we had on the list and haven't talked about because each of you have addressed it to some extent within your answers, and that has to do with what would you recommend in the areas of teacher retention and recruitment. But to make sure that we didn't skip any of the thoughts that either of you had, I would like to provide each of you an opportunity to address that in a little bit more in depth if you'd like to. And Ms. Kieran, you would be first on that question, okay?
Okay, so I think teacher retention comes down to two things: competitive wages and professional respect and well-being. So I would explore options for how we can offer more competitive wages. A teacher working in Germantown should be able to earn at least what they could earn working in a nearby district. Dollars are short for everybody. I would also reach out to teachers for their perspective. What do they think are important issues that might be impacting teacher retention? Things like class size, professional development, opportunities to collaborate, and so forth. Germantown has really great teachers, and we want to keep them here. We want to make sure we're recognizing their hard work and prioritizing their well-being, as that will strengthen our schools and it will create the best possible learning environment for our students.
Thank you very much. Mr. Boyer.
So I know I touched base on our 93% retainment rate, which again is fantastic, but I'll lead into it a little bit. So secondly, let's look at the demographic of our staff. We're top end heavy, and we need to understand that retirement is a good thing. These educators deserve to move on and enjoy their lives. They have earned it. Consequently, the district is taking steps in retention via comp studies and negotiations and engagement with the union. We can only control the things that we control, and we must accept external influences on personal decisions. I am committed to continuing the work of the board and focusing on increased engagement with the union and our comp studies.
Thank you very much to both of you. We have had the opportunity to go through all of the questions. So this is your opportunity now for your closing statements, and you do have 2 minutes for the closing statements, as you did for the opening statement. Ms. Kiernan, you are up first for the closing statement. Mr. Voyer, you'll follow.
So I think we would all agree that the Germantown School Board plays a critical role in shaping our schools and ensuring that students and teachers have what they need to thrive. Board members make decisions that impact everything from curriculum and resources to transportation, class sizes, professional development, teacher autonomy, and overall school culture. An effective board seeks input from educators, families, students, and the community. On a well-functioning board, members will regularly debate a range of opinions and perspectives. They'll listen respectfully to each other, and they'll welcome healthy debate as a way to make informed, thoughtful, financially sound decisions in a way that builds trust and puts students first. For the past 33 years, I've demonstrated my work as an educator, through my work as an educator, that I'm deeply committed to public education and to the success of students. I've demonstrated that I know how to listen effectively, work collaboratively, make informed decisions, and focus on student learning and well-being. By bringing my experiences and passion for education to the board, I hope to strengthen our schools and serve our community in a meaningful way. I want to thank you all for coming tonight and for watching online if you're watching online. And thank you to the Chamber for hosting this event. This has been really fun. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Mr. Boyer, closing comments.
Thank you all for your submitted questions this evening. It has been a pleasure answering them. I do understand that some people may have questions that were not asked, and to that I will say, please email me or message me. I would be happy to give you my response in a timely fashion. I am honored to have the opportunity to serve with our current board and help grow this beautiful district with a direct focus on restoring high levels of student achievement. I would like to let everyone know tonight in full transparency that I am 100% self-funded. And I have made the decision along with my wife, if I am fortunate enough to win, to donate 100% of my income as a school board member back to the school district. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to engage with the community tonight, and I ask for your vote on April 1st. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boyer. Well, a round of applause for the candidates. We can't thank them enough for running, and we can't thank you enough for being here and submitting questions and hearing what they have to say firsthand. So thank you so very much. Again, both candidates have said they'd be willing to stick around for a few minutes. We do begin another forum at 6:15 promptly. So you can meet in this room. If it's going to carry beyond that, then if I could just ask that you take the questions out into the lobby, that'd be awesome. So thank you very much. Anything else the chamber would like to add? Thank you. Pretty
I was told this would be working. Should I take that?
sure.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joletta from the Germantown Chamber. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you if you submitted questions. Thank you to everyone who is watching online. Particular thank you to the Village of Germantown for allowing us to be here, providing us with technology. And again, if you don't know anything about the chamber, I guess I'll tell you real quick. We are just down the street in our new office on Mequon Road by Dental Professionals. We are a great resource for the community. We encourage everyone to stop by at least once, say hey, see what we have to offer, both our businesses and the community. So I'm going to cut this short because this is about you guys and the candidates, and I'll get to Dan Anhalt. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone, for being here. How many people were here for the school board portion? So we have a couple of folks that are newer for the second half, okay? There are, most of the questions the candidates will have 1 minute to respond to. There are a couple that they will have 2 minutes to respond to. We hope we get through all of the questions. We don't always get through all of them with the time limits. And we do have a couple of questions as backups that the candidates really didn't know about, but they're there in case we have some extra time to go ahead and present. Otherwise, the other questions, again, they've all been submitted by you. We don't take questions the day of. Candidates are typically willing to stick around and answer questions individually. About 15 minutes after this session ends, we'll be starting another session, and that'll be for the village trustees. So we just ask is that if it's getting close to that next time, if you just take the questions into the lobby, but feel free to use this space for that aspect as well. I can't thank people enough for submitting questions, for being here. The candidates know, and Joletta knows how I feel about this. This is probably the best exhibit of democracy that we can have in the towns in which we live, where people submit the questions, they get to sit and listen to the answers. This is not a debate, so this isn't where people counter back and forth between their opinions. This is a candidate forum, and the reason for that is very specific. You then get to hear exactly what each candidate thinks, as opposed to them spending all of their time trying to counter something that the other individual just brought up. So there's a reason for that. So again, thank you very much. We'll begin with opening comments. Candidates have 2 minutes each to do their opening comments. Similarly, they'll have 2 minutes to do their closing comments, and I'll read the questions to the individuals as we go along. Thank you very much. All right, candidates, again, welcome. And first of all, thank you for running for office. It's an onerous task at times, but thank you very much for that. Opening statements this evening, as I just mentioned, are 2 minutes. Both of you have indicated I should dispense with the Mr. Soderberg and Mr. Walter and go with Bob and Dean. So we will do that. Opening statements, you have 2 minutes for that again. And Bob, you will be providing that with us for us first. And then Dean, you will be providing it second. When the questions begin, Mr. Soderberg, you will also answer the first question first, and then Dean will. Oh, I just goofed up and said Mr. Soderberg. See, that's what comes from being of my generation. I go right to Mr. or Ms. or Mrs. So.
And you could call me Hey You too. That's okay.
Sure. There you go.
I answer to that. But thank you. First, I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce and their Executive Director, Joletta Kirpin, for putting on this great event this evening, and the evening's moderator, Dan Anholt. I've never done this before. This is my first time doing it, so I'm really looking forward to sharing some things with you. I also want to thank those that are in this room tonight and also those that are watching online. I do appreciate your engagement. Why am I running for village president? Well, very simply, I was asked to. I served as a past school board member for 12 years, with 9 of those years being the school board president. After attending village board meetings for the past 5 months, my mind was made up when, during public comments, of village residents who lived next door to a waste management facility and who was practically in tears addressed the village president, village trustees, and village staff for their failure to respond to as many emails and calls because of the noise levels coming from waste management during the late evening hours. You see, his family could not sleep for 3 years. Hearing that individual pleading for assistance made me realize that we can do better, we must do better, and that's why I'm running for village president. Over the past several years, we have watched our local village government stray from the community, make closed doors deals, prioritize developers, avoid, circumvent, and skirt transparency, and make risky decisions that impact us all. We have seen our personal finances increased or impacted by increased costs for the delivery of village services, projects not going as scheduled, and the lack of planning for infrastructure updates, resulting in increased property taxes and water fees, while our economy was experiencing historically high inflation and borderline recession, causing further individual pressures. My goals are clear. We need to be better stewards of the taxpayers' money. We need to manage and lessen the tax burden control. We need better government responsiveness, transparency, and efficiency. And we need to have an open for business mindset in all areas of village functions. Thank you. And I think I need to talk a little bit faster. And I'm looking forward to our conversation this evening.
Thank you very much for your opening comments this evening, Bob. Dean, you are up.
Okay. To start off, again, I would like to also thank the Chamber for setting up this event and allowing us opportunity to speak directly to the public. Joletta's done a great job in the past of organizing this and getting everybody involved and to this podium to discuss all the matters that are important to the residents. Also appreciate the moderator. He's always done an excellent job in keeping it on track and on time. And the way that he presents not only himself, but the questions have always made it easier for the candidates up here and help us to make us feel a little bit more comfortable. So thank you for that. Unlike Bob, I've been through this before, but it's been a while. I got to go back a while from when I first had a candidates forum, and I think it was more in a debate forum at that time. So what I'd like to do to begin is just to to kind of reintroduce myself. Who am I? Why am I here? Where do I come from? And of course, my name is Dean Walter, and I am running for reelection of village president. And a little bit of background about who I am or where I come from is I was born in Milwaukee. So I've been in Wisconsin, born and bred, raised in West Allis. I come from a third-generation immigrant German mother and father and was raised in a very strict and Christian home, but very loving. My parents taught me respect for others and for others' property, and provided me the touchstone of my life in a Christian upbringing. They also taught me to be humble in my manners and help me to help others that require your help first ahead of your own needs. I did come to Germantown in 1991 when I met my wife, which has now been 33 years, and both of our daughters were born in Germantown and attended the Germantown District Schools from kindergarten to graduation of high school, both graduating with honors, my youngest as valedictorian. Each daughter went to Carey's College, which is the alma mater of UW-Madison, and graduated from there with honors as well. I work as a manager of customer service department for Milwaukee plant of R.R. Donnelly, which prints, assembles, and ships in-store marketing materials for large storefront like Home Depot, Albertsons, Walgreens, and similar companies. I became involved with the village board in 2007 when the District 4 trustee won his election for village president, and I was selected to fill the term of his trustee office and ran for the seat the following year. The village president only served one term, and I decided to run for village president and won in 2010, and I've been village president for 5 terms. I always remember my service-minded approach to all things, and I'm asking for your continued support and vote on April 1st. Thank you.
Thank you much, gentlemen. You've each touched briefly on why public service, but the very first question is, what prompted you to get involved in public service? Both of you have been in office before, but if you would think about this, not so much the circumstances of the initial decision, but what prompted you philosophically for getting involved in public service? And that question would go to you, Bob, first, okay?
Great, thank you very much. Well, as you mentioned, I was an elected official. I retired 2 years ago. I was a school board member for 12 years, 9 years of which I was the board president. Sorry. When folks, and that was an experience that was very humbling and rewarding to me. One of the best things I ever did in my life, being responsible for educating 4,000 kids in our wonderful village of Germantown. When folks asked me to run for the village president, I began attending more village meetings and discovered many concerning things, opportunities for improvement. My calling was renewed, and of course, I had to run. I look forward to once again being in public service and hearing from you on how we can make Germantown a better place for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you much. Dean, your response.
Sure. What prompted me into public service is I go back to my roots when I was first experiencing public service, when I was involved in scouting. What better way to get involved in public service and know the ways to serve your community is through the scouting program. Volunteer time helped me with the community projects and selling items for fundraising to help local charities or shelters, and all levels of service have given me great joy and pride within my life. Leadership is closely linked with service. Service learning teaches valuable leadership skills and inspires others to walk the same path if you are successful. I try to live my life in the service of others. I receive my greatest feeling of gratitude when I have helped someone solve a problem or get an answer to an issue that is giving them a problem for a long time. I am also involved in service in my career. I'm the manager of a customer service department, and I got into public service of the village by applying to an open seat on the village board back in 2007, and have enjoyed working and helping this community grow and prosper through the 17 years I've been doing public service to Germantown. Thank you.
Thank you much. The second question this evening, and Dean, you will begin this question or answer it first. Understanding that you are one of 9 people voting on any given issue, how would you retain or gain the support of the majority of the board members to affect the change that you seek within our community? I'll read that one more time. Understanding that you're one of 9 people voting on any given issue, how would you retain or gain the support of the majority of the board members to affect the change that you seek within our community? And Dean, you would be first.
Sure. Being of only one of 9 members as village president, I look at that position as responsible to facilitate the meeting and make sure it runs smoothly and follows the rules created for an orderly and efficient meeting. When I first ran for village president, I made a lot of promises of what I was going to change or improve within the village, but after the election, I quickly learned that I was only one vote of 9 people on a board. The best way I can think of to gain the support of the village board members is through trust. And you can build trust through properly running a meeting and also showing trust to other village board members through their leadership roles, whether it be on committees, committee assignments, or special projects. Speaking to each village board member in a manner that shows respect and hold in high regard for their ideas and opinions are important, and it helps them to want to be as part of the board and contribute to the community and provide service to their residents within their constituency as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Bob?
Thank you. Of course, if elected, that should telegraph that the community wants change. Saying that, you must have a shared vision on the path forward, and the tone starts at the top. Having said that, I don't know everything, and I welcome multiple points of view when making important decisions. I value opposing positions as it helps to understand different priorities and reaching better outcomes that meet more needs. I'm very good at communicating, being transparent, listening, having empathy, collaborating, and influencing. It will not be my way or the highway, but it will be a partnership. We will not agree on everything, and that is understood. As long as we all work together towards what is best for our community, we will be fine. While at the school district, our school board did a lot of wonderful things there, whether it be infrastructure improvements at all of our schools, the great school report cards, the high graduation rates, to name a few. The success of the school has benefited the village in terms of growth in single-family homes, which means additional revenue streams in the form of tax revenues. I am confident that when I'm elected to be the village president, good things will occur and we will work at overcoming challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Question number 3, and Bob, you'll take this one first for us. And it wraps around the topic of economic development, but with a slight twist to it. It's, if elected, what steps will you take to redevelop vacant buildings in the village versus focusing strictly on new development? So if elected, what steps would you take to redevelop vacant buildings in the village? And that's as opposed to new, we'll call it greenfield development. A little bit. It's closest to number 5.
And we have 2 minutes for this?
You do have 2 minutes for this question.
Okay, great. First, it is creating the environment that we're truly open for business, as today we are not. All of you have to do is attend a plan commission meeting or the village board meetings where developers that want to do business with us present proposals, and roadblock after roadblock are put up. The end result is that Germantown is known for being very difficult to work with, and this is even coming from our local establishments as well. They too report that the village is difficult to work with. This must change, and it will. We will streamline processes, eliminate the red tape, have no sweetheart or backroom deals with select developers, and by doing so, that will demonstrate that we truly are open for business. We will evaluate all regulations, the muni codes, to streamline the process for a community business first approach. Then we will evaluate our current industrial and business community sentiment about how Germantown may help them grow their business. It is people, it is space, and it's regulations. Getting back to the empty buildings, that is very simple. We would call the owners and ask the question, what are they doing to lease the property, and how can we help? I know that some owners knowingly take a loss on properties for tax write-offs. I just don't want them to do that in Germantown. The empty buildings on County Line or an eyesore, and it's apparent that the current administration has done nothing to court new retail or entertainment uses for these locations. Because if they did, the buildings would be fully occupied. We can do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Dean, you have the question next.
Can you repeat it one more time, please?
Happy to do so. If elected, what steps will you take to redevelop vacant buildings within the village?
Okay.
And it was said in regards to, as opposed to greenfield development,
Mhm.
new greenfield development.
Okay, well, to start off, there are a number of vacant storefronts along Mequon and County Line roads, and I'm sure that the owners of those buildings are seeking new tenants and do like to see the vacancies any more than the residents of Germantown who drive past them every day. All these buildings remain on our property tax roll, and we receive property taxes each year, whether they are filled or emptied, but that is not a reason to keep them empty. I would prefer to see storefront filled or the owners present other options of what to develop on the property. We have reached out to some of the land management groups that own those buildings and have asked them what their future plans are. Some already have leases that are extending 5 to 7 years beyond the closure and are still receiving payments on those leases. But they are always willing to look at new store opportunities as they present themselves. Unfortunately, most of those become more transient. In fact, of the Halloween and Christmas stores that you see fill those vacancies short term. We have done a good job of trying to keep the downtown commercial area of Germantown full. We've worked with each of the land management groups to help them dress up their properties to increase their amount of sales that they have or number of dollars that they have coming in to cover their costs to upkeep their properties by allowing them to build along some of their storefronts along the road, giving a secondary area for business to expand to. And in most cases, we are also very open to where they want to redress or re-update their buildings, much like Sendik's Village did when they put in the pet store and kind of repainted everything that they had there. But what we need to remember that is a lot of these strip malls are facing the challenge of online shopping, which has caused stores like Linen and Things to declare bankruptcy. We have no control over that, nor can we tell the owners of those buildings what they should do. One thing that may help is with the continued growth of our community, including the proposed housing development on Lannon and County Line roads. Retail follows population growth. The possibility of a cadenced meeting with the property owner could spur new ideas for development and pursue a solution that would be best for the village and the business property owners as well. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Dean, you'll be tackling this next question first. And it is a bit of a two-part question, but you would have received both of these. What is your opinion on the current level of debt service within Germantown? And when do you think it's appropriate to increase or decrease the debt service for the village? So again, what is your opinion on the current level of debt service within Germantown? And when do you think it's appropriate to increase or decrease the debt service for the village? So you have 2 minutes on this one.
All right, thank you. There's been a lot of discussion lately, whether it be online or in front of the village board, about the level of debt service that Germantown currently carries. And first, let me note that Germantown has the highest rating for a village that we can receive for financial management. We receive year after year, and within the 17 years that I've been on this board, have maintained an A2 AA rating for bonding, meaning we get the best interest rates available when we go out for borrowing and bonding. And this we receive year after year from our auditing firm, Baker Tilly. This speaks volumes of how well the village board and staff have managed the village finances, the borrowing and bonding, and continue to do so. Each year, we have at least 2 presentations from the leading independent financial management firm that has been in business for nearly 75 years, and that firm is Ehlers. Very recently, they reported that not only is Germantown in great financial shape, but our borrowing is very much lower than the standard set for a village of our size. We are currently at 37% of our total borrowing capacity. In less than 5 years, our percentage for borrowing capacity will be 20%, and in 2032, it will be 14%. As you can see, in up to 5 to 7 years from now, it'll drop more than half of what our overall borrowing capacity is going to, that we can have. The same year, in 2032, TIFs 6, 7, and 8 will close and come onto the tax property rules. But borrowing is going to happen. A village of our size must borrow money to construct infrastructure, such as the Public Works building that was completed last year. The building replaces a building that was constructed in the early 1960s. It was hopelessly outdated for the growth of our community, and we have experienced growth that requires a larger building up till now. It is a wise use of our borrowing power. The new building will serve this community for generations to come. Through borrowing, we also replace capital items such as plow trucks and reconstruct our roads. None of this is unusual and is the way we can provide for and keep up with our growing community needs. The village board should always carefully consider the changes to the debt service to make sure it carries a minimal impact to the residents' property taxes. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Bob, you're up next on this one, and then just as a reminder, you will begin the next question after this as well, okay?
Thank you.
Would you like it reread or are you good?
I've got it.
Okay, cool.
According to the most recent Ehlers report, our current general obligation debt for this year is approximately $7.7 million. And going forward to the year 2043, the total debt will be $115 million. To pay down this debt, several revenue streams that include water and service fees and the 4 TIDs reduce this debt to our net tax levy. And for this year, the tax levy is $4.9 million, which is the basis for our property taxes. Approximately $49 million of our existing debt is for the new Department of Public Works building, and tax revenue is paying for that. And by the way, and in my case, my wife and I paid an additional 12.7% taxes, increase in taxes year over year to pay for that $49 million building that originally started at a price tag of $10 million. Our debt capacity, or the amount that the village can borrow, is up to $215 million. The village is currently at 37% of the total borrow capacity, meaning that we have, or they have, 63% left to borrow. And guess what? They can borrow that money. We are a growing community, and based on the Department of Public Works 5-year capital improvement plan, it is forecasted that we need an additional $122 million in public infrastructure improvements, along with a new police and fire station. How do we pay for that? My goal is to be transparent, smart about incurring additional debt. Do we use a TID? Do we do it via bond, which will increase our taxes? Of course, the goal is to increase revenue streams in the form of taxes, which will lessen the tax burden on all of us. The more good development with owner-occupied homes, whether they be single-family condos or townhomes, or new development of manufacturing or warehousing, not within a TID and without using additional TIDs, the better that is for all. By doing so, we'll have increased revenue streams and more money in the village coffers, and again, that will lessen the tax burden on you, me, and slow our future debt. We can do better, and we will.
And Bob, you'll be first on the next question, so you can turn your microphone back on and you're all set then. The next question is, if you were village president, either becoming or Dean, in your case, if you retain as village president, how will you introduce new village trustees to what their responsibilities are and the code of conduct rules for being on the board and committees?
First, we should refresh the Art Zabel booklet for onboarding new trustees and community members appointed to any committee or commission. In recent years, there was discussion of updating this process, but nothing has transpired from those discussions. Then, as village president, I would meet with each new member and share with them their responsibilities and roles are as an elected and appointed official. This would include the need to be present at board meetings and their assigned committee meetings, and to show up prepared and be ready to discuss and take action on village, committee, and commission matters before them. I would then have the village attorney and village clerk inculcate them to the ethics and code of conduct municipal code. This would include having them communicate any conflicts of interest, both real or perceived, to their fellow trustees, committee, and commission members, and to the public. When I was on the school board, I worked for Johnson Controls as their vice president and chief security officer. The school district, I had a conflict. And whenever we discussed or anything on Johnson Controls, I had to recuse myself. I wouldn't vote on any matters. And I would hope that our trustees would do that in our village, but they're not doing that today. So thank you.
Dean, the question is yours.
Okay. One way to introduce village trustees to what their responsibilities are is very similar to what Bob had stated, to sit down and meet with them and talk to them about what the format of each of the different types of committee meetings are and village board meetings, the responsibilities thereof, depending on what committee they're chosen to be on, and the ways that they are to maintain a decorum and also follow the rules, Robert's rules of each of the meetings that are held. It's very important that as each meeting is called to order, that it is handled in an orderly and a very efficient fashion. Otherwise, they go too long and there's additional side discussions that really do not bring any type of closing or a good vote to any of the matters put on the agenda. We currently have a code book that does require updating that we have used and still pass out. And we also have one for public employees from the Mid-Moraine. And the Mid-Moraine is a good one because it kind of covers a lot of different areas within different types of municipalities and communities, but it also has a code of ethics that it involves as to how people should handle themselves, not only within the village, but also on the outside as they represent constituents in their position. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Dean, you're up first on the next question, and this is a 1-minute response. Does a formal plan exist to address the impact on public services regarding current and predicted housing growth in Germantown? If yes, do you believe the described plan is sufficient? If no, what would you put in place and how? Dean, you're up first. Sure. It was 10 on your list. I know I don't remember, but I have it right in front of me. Correct. Yep.
Okay, got it. Yes, we currently have a plan in place, and most of it deals with impact fees. Impact fees are paid on new construction projects to help offset future impacts, and that is created based on growth or percentage of growth projections. For each residential unit constructed within the village receives about $8,000 in impact fees to offset future increases in public services. We had just had Grafe, an engineering firm that was used by the village to complete a study of the village impact fees. And as suggested by our consultant, all were raised to address future service needs. This needs to be watched and monitored carefully to ensure the fees that are paid help offset future costs for services in the area of public safety, sewer, water, roads, parks, and the library. But it also needs to be checked to make sure the impact fees do not hamper growth or development within the village. Thank you.
I'm fine, thank you. Outside of the Public Works 5-year capital improvement plan and the $122 million needed, from my understanding, there is no plan in place. This subject is an example of how reactive the prior administration has been by not having solid guidance for the community or the developers who may want to invest in our community. With the recent approval of the public safety referendum that I supported, and that added much needed police and fire personnel that was only for immediate needs in salaries and not long-term growth of more people or new public safety buildings. Yes, the village they have updated their impact fee schedule, which will capture dollars for future growth. But again, the impact on our schools is unknown, meaning that the risk is that the schools may be forced to go out and have a building referendum to increase capacity because of the influx of kids, along with an operations referendum to pay for expenses associated with operating that new capacity. More discussion and alignment with all stakeholders is needed to ensure that everyone is on the same page. I look forward to this exciting challenge, and I know that I will be coming in with a fresh set of eyes, a lot of help, and because many of you have said that we must do better. Thank you.
And 2 minutes to respond.
Thank you. You know, what do you really care about? What do I really care about as a resident of Germantown? Of course, we all want better roads and that our roads to be plowed in a timely fashion in the wintertime, and having our trash picked up on time, or having our great police and fire departments respond to our needs when we call. What about not closing and repairing all the bridges in Germantown at the same time? Or how about synchronizing the traffic lights on County Line so that you don't have to stop for each and every one at a time? You know, that one really drives me nuts. And when I get elected, we will fix that. What about lessening the tax burden, controlling our debt, or having more retail and entertainment establishments? What about adding more experiences to our parks, such as adding an aquatic facility or a very cool and big splash park at Fireman's Park, similar to what the Falls has? Or what about having a Christmas market at Fireman's Park with many rentable huts there over a couple weekends before Christmas? After all, we are Germantown. And don't you think we should have a Christmas market? We can have that now with monies coming out of the fund balance to pay for it and not wait 10+ years for the village center to be realized before we have a Christmas market. Talk about fun stuff for our young families and those that visit our great community to do. I want that, but are my needs aligned with those of what the village should focus on? Yes, they are. It's not just 3 areas that we should be focusing on, but it's all the above and then some. And when elected, that will be my focus areas. Thank you.
Was this a 2-minute response or a 1-minute response? All right, thank you. The 3 areas, since the question asked for 3 areas.
My apologies. It is 2.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to talk a little faster. I guess I could slow down a little bit. All right. So the 3 areas that I think we should focus on and have focused on is public safety, roads, and make sure that we have a plan for our future for the best result of all residents, preparing for young families to come and stay within Germantown. In the areas of public safety, personnel salaries, public safety personnel salaries take up about a half of the general fund budget. The village board must carefully manage the staffing levels of the public safety departments and measure the effectiveness of the additional personnel added to ensure the residents are getting the best value for the referendum money spent. The village board also has to carefully consider all large equipment purchases for public safety departments. We can look at that possibility through shared revenue or equipment that has already been purchased around surrounding communities. Do we really need to make that expenditure? Do we really need 2 ladder trucks that go 6 stories when most of our buildings are only about 2 to 3 stories, when there might be one in Richfield already, when there might be one in Jackson already? Do we need 3 ladder trucks within that proximity? We should look at that and assess that and prepare a shared service amongst those communities when those needs come up. In the area of roads, the 5-year plan for roads will help prioritize roads and make sure the worst roads get replaced and repaired first. A little bit of change that has happened over that in the last couple of years is we've looked at ways to repair roads more than full replacement. Not only is that money saved, but it takes less time, and it also allows us the ability to do more road reconstruction within the village. The village board also needs to continue to supplement the general fund for road repair so that less borrowing occurs for road repair. Currently, we borrow up to about 1.5 million per year for road repair, and most of those bonds are for 10 years, and that is a direct impact as part of your borrowing to your property tax levy. The next area is Germantown Future. Over 50% of the Germantown population is over 50 years old. As this part of the population ages, calls for emergency services will expand, requiring more personnel to fill the calls received today. The village board needs to see what can be done to help attract and retain residents in the 25 to 45 age range. The village needs to see what services and activities young growing families are looking for in this community and what can be done to create these here. If we do not look for a way to balance our population, we are basically sunsetting our community. Thank you.
Thank you much. Dean, you will have this next question first. So I'll give you a chance to take a deep breath while I read the question, okay? There are a number of openings in the village committees and commissions. What would each of you do to encourage public participation to get these positions filled? There are a number of openings in the village committees and commissions. What would each of you do to encourage public participation to get these positions filled?
Sure.
Dean, you're up first.
All right. Currently, we post all openings of the village on the village website and Facebook page, encouraging residents to learn more about the open positions. We are also planning information sessions for the public to come and learn more about how their local government operates and how they might become more involved. Unfortunately, volunteerism has dropped off since COVID, and we as well as other surrounding communities are struggling to fill some of these volunteer positions. In past years, we held an informative resident meeting to explain the responsibilities of the different committees and commissions available for residents to participate within. And we can look to initiate those types of meetings again. We can also post more information on the Facebook page and village website about open positions and the responsibilities and committees of those commissions. I would consider initiating a full review of all committees or commissions that have resident members, and should they be revamped or combined with other committees to look at the amount of people currently listed in the ordinance and maybe bring changes to the format and participating members of the committee to the General Government and Finance Committee for discussion and options for change.
Thank you, Dean. Bob?
Thank you. This is not new and certainly not too new to the village or any other organization within our community. Volunteering in our community is certainly not where we want it to be, and more needs to be done to market the why on participating. Do we have too many committees or commissions, like Dean mentioned? Should the trustees formally nominate people for various positions? Can some committees be combined to put less pressure on finding new members? I don't know, but these questions and more should be asked and answered and explored to create better representation. Saying that, I am confident that if elected, there will be a breath of fresh air in our community and we will have no problem filling vacancies. Thank you.
Our ninth question of the evening will be, Bob, you'll be first on this one. It is, what opportunities should be available to allow public input into the 2050 plan on an ongoing basis? So again, what opportunities should be available to allow public input into the 2050 plan on an ongoing basis?
1 minute.
Yes, it is a 1 minute.
The 293-page 2050 plan is certainly full of tremendous amount of information. However, only a small percentage of the public were engaged in the process, and to state that this is the plan going forward may be misguided. If elected, we would cycle through all 9 segments of the plan every year, starting with a revamp of the land use segment. We should create an ad hoc committee made up of committee stakeholders that would include the chamber, the school district, Kiwanis, our churches, and of course the public that will help us guide the process. This will assist the Economic Development Commission to be an effective committee for Germantown. I do know that when I was on the school board, that the school district was not asked to opine and to participate in the development of the plan, and most importantly, comment on any growth and impact to schools. That was wrong. Although there is language in the plan that states keeping housing development and maintenance aligned with the comprehensive plan will require coordination between the village, et cetera, to include the Germantown School District. That sounds great, but it's not being followed. But unfortunately, it is not being followed today. This is wrong, and we could do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Dean, bring us home on this question.
Sure. There are several ways in which the public has input about the 2050 land use plan. Public hearings or zoning changes on conditional use permits allow public input to the land use plan. Citizen input and comment allow the public to make comments to the village board about the 2050 land use plan or the changes being proposed to it for the particular project that is proposed on the agenda. As development proposals come forward in specific areas of the village, resident meetings will be held to discuss acceptable options. An example of this type of meeting, but not actually a neighborhood meeting, was held yesterday in regards to the development that's occurring on Landon Road and County Line Road. That particular meeting was organized and put on by the developer themselves, and they sent postcards to all surrounding Germantown residents, welcoming them to come and have input and questions about that development. That also fits within the 2050 plan and is a perfect example of what can be done on that corner. I should also point out that as the 2050 plan was developed in the past couple of years, there were a number of public information and listening and input sessions. The 2050 plan approval process did occur over COVID, so there were some struggles with meeting schedules, but overall, most of the listening sessions were well attended, anywhere from 40 to 75 people, depending on the subject and the area that was being discussed.
Thank you much. Dean, you will be first on the next question. And it centers around the issue of housing, which each of you have touched on along the edges of, but specifically with the predicted housing growth in Germantown, the projects that are being discussed. What types of housing should be focused on and why? This is a 1 minute response. Dean, you're first.
Okay. The village went out and solicited a consultant to help us determine what type of housing should be built within Germantown in the next 5 to 10 years. And the consultant that was chosen was Tracy Cross, which is a nationally recognized consultant for the types of housing that can happen within municipalities. They're well recognized within the United States, and many of their studies are used as a guide through different municipalities through the lower 48, Hawaii, and Alaska. So they are a very recognized group. Within that housing report, however, the projection for increase of housing within Germantown in the next 5 to 10 years was about 5,500 units, which is substantial. You can believe that it's true or it's not true, but it depended on the type of housing that they would be offering, and most of that study involved around affordable housing in the area of under $500,000. What we really need to look at is assess where is the right place and the right type of housing in the right location. We can build all types of housing, but it needs to be built in the right location. Multifamily on a greenfield does not make sense when compared to building it within a village center district. The village needs to look at housing that will retain and support residents in a 25 to 45-year range, while at the same time making sure we are providing the right amount of services to our older population.
Thank you, Dean. Bob?
We hear from paid consultants and developers that rental properties are the solution and are needed. I disagree. Germantown residents should have a say in how our community grows, whether it is in any type of housing. The number of people undoubtedly affects service, traffic, and general atmosphere of our suburban rural nature. I will continue focus on owner-occupied homes, whether that be single-family residences, condos, or townhomes. We need to press the pause button on high-density apartment projects, as we do not want us to turn it into a community similar to what Brown Deer is. Of the approximately 8,900 residences, according to the U.S. Postal Service, within the 53022 zip code, we should conduct a survey of what our current housing mix is. What percent of the total is single family? What percent are owner-occupied condos, townhomes? And then what percent are rentals? Today, we do not know this. When this is known, the board can then set policy as it relates to high-density apartments, meaning that rentals will be capped at 15 or 20% of the total residences in the community, or whatever percent the board with community input decides. Thank you.
Gentlemen, we're coming to the last question before your closing remarks. We're approaching 7 o'clock. It moves fast. The last question, and this did come up from a couple of different folks, was what steps will you take to ensure financial transparency from the village board and staff? So what steps will you take to ensure financial transparency from the village board and staff? And this is a 1-minute response. And Bob, you would be first on this.
Thank you. Very simple, timely and open and honest responses to the community requests, as that is what transparency is all about. There will be no roadblocks put up and no surprises. We should ensure that all financial information is current and posted on the village website. Financial systems, tools, and reports will be assessed to ensure that they are best in class, and if not, what is the going forward plan to ensure maturity? The General Government and Finance Committee reporting at meeting needs added summaries of financial action and activity. Trustees should have viewing access to Tyler Munis. A balance sheet and other normal financial reports should be issued at each monthly GGF meeting for all to see. Also, the board will go through a financial 101 awareness session to ensure their maturity and understanding of how village finances work. This is needed as after attending meetings for the past 5 months and listening to trustee questions, there is an opportunity to increase awareness and to ensure a high level of conservative financial acumen is obtained. Thank you.
Thank you much. Dean. And then just as a reminder on closing remarks, Bob, you'll be first and Dean, you'll be second.
Okay. Financial transparency is ensured through state statutes that control how local governments operate. During the budget process, we make things even more transparent with 3 or more meetings where information about the budget and the budget process are shared with any participating resident who wishes to come to those meetings and learn about it. We also post to our website where the budget is currently in process or the proposed budget that is being considered by the village board at that time. All monthly transactions of village expenditures, whether it be revenue or expenditures, is also provided not only to the board members, but is also posted on our website for anybody to look and see at any time. Not only are all of our board meetings open to the public, but the backup information is also posted on the website and can be downloaded by anybody who wishes to do so. We add special listening sessions and meetings for anyone to come and ask questions or receive more information if they have questions. Anything and everything we do on our board meetings follow state law. Our village attorney is at every village board meeting to ensure all actions by the board are done properly and have transparency. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. We've come to the point where closing comments will be heard, and those are up to 2 minutes in length. Bob, you're up first.
Once again, thank you to the chamber, our moderator, and to you, the viewing public. I had a great time, and hopefully you have increased awareness of me and what I stand for and what I will do to make our community a better place to live, visit, and work. Getting back to my opening comments on why I'm running for village president, I am reminded of what my opponent mentioned at the February 17th village board meeting during comments on the village center and on purchasing the 3 parcels of land. My opponent was supportive of purchasing land, and his rationale were the following comments, and I quote, "We are losing our young people. They are going to Jackson, Menominee Falls, going to Sussex. We're not holding them here. And the reason we are not is that there's nothing here for them to do. Young families have reached out to me and said that at any time I want to go to a family-friendly place, I have to take my family outside of Germantown because there's nothing here for them, for those type of amenities." Those comments are very alarming and disturbing, and yet they are very enlightening. Dean, you have been on the village board for 18 years, with over 15 of those years as the village president. What the heck have you been doing for the past 18 years on not making our community more welcoming for our young people and not holding them here by ensuring that there is something for them to do? If I had the same performance at my employer, or if you had that same performance at your employer, we would all be fired. Saying that, I am reminded of someone I got to know recently. He was not being supported by anyone from the village during his fight to stop a solar field being installed next to his business near Rockfield Elementary School. In a February 28th email, he stated, "When you are elected as village president, please be transparent, competent, and respectful to all your constituents. You are the only official to speak to us in person or in any capacity regarding the ridiculous solar panel project. You will have our votes. I will make a promise to you all tonight. I will listen. I will use common sense. I will be transparent. I will be respectful. I will be authentic. And most importantly, I will be present. I am humbled and honored to ask you for your vote for me to be the next village president. We can do better, and we will. And to learn more about me, please visit bobsoderberg.org and like me on Facebook. Thank you very much."
Dean, your closing comments.
Sure. When I first filled the vacant seat of trustee district number 4, I knew very little about the village and how it operated, its policies, and the processes of getting things through committee or how the budget was created or instituted. The first year or 2 of my time as a trustee, I did not have a lot of discussion or points to make during the committee meetings or the village board meetings because I was learning the process of how things worked at the village level. As a trustee, I had a great group of mentors that helped me. Great trustees like Mel Ewert, Mike Beck, Art Zabel, all were very helpful in getting me acquainted with the village board, the processes that they had, and the trustee position responsibilities and requirements. Without those 2 years of learning and mentoring, I do not think I would have ran for village board president. But because I had a better grasp of how the village board worked and how I could help the community through representation of the residents, I ran and won the village board position. Now I look at my opponent and I wonder what training he has received or knowledge he has gained to bring to as village president. All of my opponent's prior experience of public service has been on the school board, a taxing body greatly different than that of the village board in scope and responsibilities. What financial aptitude can he bring to the position? All of experience and claim to fame revolves around an $84 million referendum he proposed and supported while school board president. Can my opponent bring the experience of the largest property tax increase ever seen in Germantown to his duties and responsibilities as village president? Every previous village president has experience on the village board first. My opponent has no experience on the village board, trustee committee, or any committee of the village board. If you are looking for the most experienced person to help successfully run the village for the next 3 years, your obvious choice is Dean Walter on April 1st. Please consider my experience and commitment to service as you cast your vote on April 1st. Thank you to the chamber for placing this event. Thank you to the moderator for keeping us on time. And thank you all for coming and watching tonight and helping to get information for your decision on April 1st. Good night.
We will have a 7:15.
That's always-
Trustee. Rami around the corner.
Right between that.
There you go. Second, and then it connects, okay? Sounds good.
It's almost so fast.
Oh, Lee was there. Say it and then you just stand silent. Sure. First of all, thank you. A lot in here, it's wonderful. There's people online. Some people come in for the end and say, hey, I watched the people online. So that's awesome. I appreciate that very much. So this next conversation and forum is for village trustee. So we had the rules are pretty much the same as the other two. The questions will all increase, and then you will see a lot of very similar questions to those asked the village board president candidates. Because many of the questions that were submitted, people said, please use them for both or either, whichever you think is most appropriate. Many of them were appropriate for these two candidates for the village board as well. But you'll be able to hear their responses to that. Again, I would say it's a 1 minute introduction that was opening remarks and closing remarks, just like the other positions that were previous to this time period. So that anything that you'd like to add?
Thank you everyone for coming. I'd like to thank you for village for allowing us technology. Just a little bit about chamber office in the last year, we are we are looking for the public. Please apply with us. We have a lot of resources, information available to the public. So yeah, please come. So, right.
It's a great talk. It's very accessible, very easy to get in and out of the parking lot. I've been here a couple times. Well, thank you, everyone. And first of all, candidates, thank you for running for office. It can be an onerous task at times, and I promise that'll be the longest word I'll use this evening, okay? So opening statements will begin, and Kristen, you will be up first. And for the audience, again, I ask people how they would like to be referred to. And so how you hear me refer to each of the candidates is what they have said that they prefer. So Kristen, you have the first opening statement, and then Pastor Greg, you have the second, and then Kristen, you will have the first answer on the first question, okay? All right. Kristen, opening statement.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kristen Borse, and I'm honored to be running for Village Trustee District 4. I've grown up in the Germantown, Menominee Falls area my entire life, and for the past 7 years, my husband, son, and I have resided in Germantown. I'm a licensed expert in financial compliance, risk, and auditing, ensuring organizations operate with transparency and accountability. My focus will be on ensuring our community runs similarly. I have seen firsthand the financial challenges our village is facing, and I believe we can do better. Our taxes continue to rise, our debt remains high, and there's a clear lack of financial oversight and long-term planning. We need to start asking tough questions. Why are we burdened with high taxes? How can we get a better understanding of where our tax dollars are going? And why does it feel like decisions are made behind closed doors? With my professional background, I know how to dig into the details, identify inefficiencies, and implement processes that improve accountability. I've worked with organizations to create financial transparency that benefits customers, and I want to bring the same approach to the village. We need smarter budgeting and clear, transparent decision-making to ensure taxpayer dollars are being used responsibly. I'm not running because I want to be a politician. I'm running because I care about the community, and I want to ensure residents are informed and involved in decisions that impact them. We need leadership that prioritizes responsible spending, eliminates waste, and restores trust in our community. I believe in open communication, fiscal responsibility, and accountable leadership. I'm prepared to bring a fresh perspective on issues along with real solutions. If you believe the same, I ask for your support, and together we can build a stronger, more financially sound future for Germantown. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Pastor Greg, your opening comments.
I'm going to do things a little bit differently. I didn't do prepared notes. I certainly studied all the materials. My wife and I and family have lived in Germantown since 1988. I was full-time pastor at St. John United Church of Christ in Germantown during a very heavy time of explosive growth in Germantown. I immediately became involved with what used to be a Rotary Club, was vice president. My entire life has been one of public service, even in my childhood. I'm a 20-year chaplain with the Germantown Police Department. I appeal to both conservative and liberal. And having served churches that are diverse, meaning there are conservative, they are liberal people. It is my responsibility as a leader to minister to all of those people. And I will approach the village board the same way. Because we are diverse, knocking on doors, canvassing. I've seen a lot of people, some that have a lot of money, which is okay, and some that are struggling, but still want that same sense of community. I want to be a candidate for all people. I am endorsed by the retired police chief, Mike Snow, and that's a part of my campaign literature. And I've done, on the dark side of Germantown, I've been called over the years to make death notifications to many, many families over the 20 years I've been here. I pray that none of them have been you. So I think all of that service that I have, because I'm all about people. We've always had to run tight budgets at churches, and we're in the black in the church that I'm serving now. Been there for 6 years. So, but I like working collaboratively, and I want to be there for all people, both conservative and liberal.
Thank you, Pastor. Kristen, you'll have the first shot at this question, and it's what prompted you to get involved in public service? This is a 1-minute response.
I decided to get involved in public service because there's a growing frustration with how our village is being run. Like many residents I've spoken with, I've watched taxes rise, our debt continue to grow, and development decisions be made without clear explanations. I kept asking myself, why isn't anyone fixing this? And then I realized I have the skills and experience to help make a difference. With my professional background, I've ensured organizations operate effectively with transparency and fiscal responsibility. Our village should be held to the same standard, and I want to utilize my skill set to help the community. Instead of just talking about the issues, I decided to step up and be part of the solution. I believe we need leadership that listens, asks tough questions, and prioritizes the best interests of residents. That's exactly what I intend to do. My husband and I are raising our family here, and we want our children to have a wonderful and safe childhood in this community.
Thank you very much.
Same question.
Pastor Greg, yes.
In 1 minute.
1 minute.
Okay. I was asked to actually run for office because they see me as a person that can work collaboratively. I've had to work in a lot of committees, including the Greater Germantown Committee, I might add, when during my tenure, we launched Leadership Germantown, which I'm sure most all of you know about. I had to work with people from all walks of life, different perspectives, and I have a history of bringing people together. There's way too much division, way too much polarization, and it's time for it to stop. I see myself in some roles as a peacemaker, but I like to work collaboratively and listen to everyone.
Thank you, Pastor. Pastor, you'll be first on this next question. And so question 2 is, understanding that you would be one of 9 people voting on an issue, how would you retain or gain the support of the majority of the board to affect the change that you seek with the community as candidates?
Well, first and foremost, like any committee, it's comprised of peoples, be it a board, be it the Greater Germantown Committee, church boards, those kinds of things. You have people with different perspectives on issues. And first and foremost, it's a matter of listening, and trying to, it's an old-fashioned thing these days, getting people to find a compromise. I really see the village is not as bad a shape as a lot of people like to make it to be. I tend to be a relentless optimist and believe that we can move forward.
Thank you very much. Kristen.
To create real change, it's essential to build consensus and work collaboratively with the board. As a trustee, I had to take a fact-based and solution-oriented approach, bringing data, financial analysis, and well-researched proposals to the table. When addressing large issues, I would focus on common ground and shared goals rather than political divides. I'd also avoid rash decision-making and recognize that sometimes the best option is to table an item until tensions lower and unknown facts and questions can be researched further and appropriately answered. Building relationships, listening to different perspectives, and finding compromise where necessary are key to gaining support. I'd also engage with residents to ensure board decisions reflect the goals of the community. Strong leadership isn't about pushing a personal agenda. It's about working as a team to make informed, responsible decisions to benefit all.
Thank you very much. The next question relates to being new in public office and was submitted actually by a couple of different citizens. So given that both of you, and this is a 1-minute response, and Kristen, you'll be up first. Given that both of you are new to public office, what would be your approach to participating in board and committee meetings? Kristen?
I might be new to public office, but I'm not new to high-stakes meetings in the business world. My approach to board and committee meetings would be to come prepared, ask the right questions, and ensure decisions are made with transparency and accountability. The skills and expertise I've acquired in the private sector are a great fit for the village board. I'm used to reviewing complex information, identifying risks and issues, and making data-driven decisions. My approach will also include ideas on how to make complex information and financial data more user-friendly, so the overwhelming amount of facts and figures can be captured in a clear and concise manner for residents. I believe in listening first and understanding all perspectives before forming an opinion, but also speaking up if something doesn't add up. I'll respond quickly to resident concerns and bring forward issues when I identify them. My goal is to ensure that every decision benefits residents, not just the special interests of some. I'm fully committed to serving residents in our village to the best of my ability and look forward to working with all.
Thank you, Kristen. Pastor Greg?
Could you repeat the question again?
Be happy to do so. Given that you're new to public office, what would be your approach to participating in board and committee meetings?
I'm used to going to board and committee meetings, like she is with business. I am certainly with churches. In fact, there was a saying that God so loved the world that he didn't appoint a committee. But those are important things to have, to meet. I believe in personal touch. I don't like doing them via Zoom. I know during the pandemic, I was doing a lot of law enforcement training via Zoom, and I didn't like it. So I think working collaborative with people is really the best approach to take. Is what I've taken all of my life.
Thank you. And Pastor Greg, you'll begin first on the next question as well, okay? So share a professional experience that you have had that you believed prepared you to directly impact a current issue facing the village. The second part of this, how do you see your experience being applied to issue resolution?
1 minute?
1 minute.
Wow. I have to draw from my experiences that are outside the village and in the village. I was involved and called to Sandy Hook. So school safety is a big issue for me, and did a debriefing for those first responders. And you're wondering, what does all this have to do with local village politics? I believe it really forges an understanding and empathy and compassion. I was involved with the Azana Saw shooting, the Sikh temple mass shooting when it became a hate crime. I was a part of a strike team to Hurricane Katrina, dealing mostly with the poor. So I see humanity. And my responses are always going to be informed decisions, because one of the things I think we need today is to really have, really good critical thinking skills. I see too much of that where people are not really using critical thinking skills to look at both sides of an issue.
Thank you, Pastor Greg. Kristen?
As a licensed expert in financial compliance, risk, and auditing, I've worked with organizations to identify inefficiencies, improve financial oversight, and implement processes that create accountability and controls. One specific example that applies directly to our village's challenges is when I led a financial review audit that uncovered wasteful spending and a lack of proper controls. By introducing transparency measures and stronger financial processes, we were able to strengthen the controls and improve financial stability, which benefited the business and the customers, which equated to many millions of dollars saved. I would apply my experience to thoroughly review the village finances, identify areas of waste, and implement smarter budgeting and accountability measures. My goal is to ensure that every tax dollar is used efficiently and responsibly to benefit you, the residents.
Thank you both very much. The next question, and Kristen, you'll be up first. If elected, what steps will you take to redevelop vacant buildings within the village? And this is current vacant, unoccupied, as opposed to, for example, greenfield development, as and we had the village president candidates address this question as well. Kristen?
The first step is to assess how many vacant buildings we actually have, where they are, and why they remain empty. Because development has occurred so rapidly over the last 5 years, we do have vacancies in older buildings and some newly built. We should review zoning regulations to ensure vacant buildings align with the type of businesses and developments that are surrounding that immediate area. Additionally, we should partner with the Chamber of Commerce and utilize the Economic Development Committee to form broader regional relationships so we have better awareness of trends or opportunities that may align with the vacant locations. Collaboration here is key. We need to work with property owners, business leaders, and residents to find practical solutions for filling these spaces. Instead of allowing buildings to sit empty, we should focus on redevelopment opportunities that enhance our village's character and economy.
Thank you. Pastor Greg, you're up.
Like everybody else, it's been addressed in the other forums prior to ours. Nobody likes the empty buildings on County Line and some of those now that we find on Mequon Road. And that's always been kind of a frustration for me. I remember when they were built. I would like to, I think with the changing and growth that Christian talked about, one of the things that's taken away from that is online. A lot of people are buying things from Amazon. That may be true of most of you. A lot of people go to Costco, other kinds of places that have drawn away from the small businesses. I am a big supporter of small business. When I was going to graduate school, I actually had a small business. And so I can really relate to small businesses. Those empty buildings, we do need to work with them and see what they can do. Some have leases that run, for several years yet, if I recall. And because of that, we're going to have to work with them to see what can be done so that things flourish and businesses do as well.
Thank you very much. Pastor Greg, you will have the first response to the next question.
Okay.
And this one switches to financial scenarios within the village. So it is, what is your opinion on the current debt service level within the village? And then when do you think it is appropriate to increase or decrease the debt service for the village? So again, what is your opinion on the current level of debt service in the village of Germantown? And when is it appropriate to increase or decrease the debt service for the village? Pastor Greg?
Well, contrary to a lot of people say, our debt limit is 37% of max. I'm not an economics person like her, but I certainly know how to balance a budget and those kinds of things. But I also understand that in a growing community, that those burdens can increase. For instance, I'm intimately aware of the struggles of the police and fire department over the years. Since I've been involved with both of them for 20 years. For a long time, Germantown Police Department only had 3 officers on duty at any one time. And just most recently, we're able to acquire them. I had a neighbor once say to me, well, I think we need more police. I want one of my, just spend time in front of my open garage, because I told her to close her garage. And I said, do you want to pay for that? They deserve to be paid for that. And that's a necessary growth. And also, I think we're very healthy, contrary to the gloom and doom that I've been hearing. And I will help maintain that.
Thank you much. Kristen, your response.
The current level of debt is too high, and it's a major concern. Our debt is now approaching $93 million, and about 6 years ago, it was at $26 million. A lot of this is because of the new DPW building, but it does not include other needs like the new public safety building or other deferred maintenance projects, which totals about $125 million more dollars. Debt should only be increased when absolutely necessary and when identified expenses are brought forward from a well-researched and thought-out capital budget. On the other hand, We should always be looking for opportunities to reduce debt by cutting wasteful spending and improving financial oversight. Additionally, we need to factor in paying down our debt. My approach to financial management is simple: spend wisely, plan ahead, and always keep taxpayers' dollars in mind.
Thank you both for your answers. The next question is going to be a 2-minute opportunity for response. And Kristen, you'll be first on this question, and Pastor Greg second. The question is, what are the 3 areas you believe the village should focus on in the near future?
We should focus on these areas: responsible budgeting and planning, development, and being a board that truly listens to residents. First, when it comes to responsible budgeting, we need to be able to set aside funds to prepare for needs instead of borrowing cash. We need our budget to align with the village's forecasts and needs while being fiscally responsible. Number 2, we need to redefine development standards and processes so that they are clear and specific for both developers and residents, and deals proposed and passed are done so ethically. Another aspect of development planning includes tax increment districts, or TIDs. We should work to close TIDs as quickly as possible, and we should not open another one unless one has been closed. Otherwise, we risk underfunding our schools and public safety because their annual cost to operate increases. Finally, the board must be willing to listen and take meaningful action based on the residents' and school districts' concerns. Leadership should be proactive, accessible, and committed to making decisions that reflect the best interests of the people who live here in Germantown. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Pastor Greg.
Public service would be number 1 for me, including SROs in our schools, because with growth in a village, we need more first responders and quicker response times. Just had a garage fire out of the side, and I was amazed at how quick the police and fire response was to our garage. It was on fire on Sunday morning at 2:00. Our roads, I think our roads, I know we've got a project, I believe, Division Road is going to be a project that's on the docket to be worked on. So our roads, because with increased growth in traffic, we do have to have halfway decent roads. And finally, the library. Both my wife and daughter work at the library and have for years. Now, any issues regarding the library, if it came up as an issue, I would recuse myself. But I also know how valuable an asset that the public library is, and I believe that they should also be able to have, be able to have very comprehensive information available to all people.
Thank you, Pastor Greg. And you will be first on this next question. This is a 1-minute response. How would you work with the school district as a village board to ensure public safety in and around our community schools?
Well, that's an easy one for me, because having worked with that and having gone into schools when there's been a bomb threat with police, I think I found a bottle of rum, seriously, in a boy's bathroom in a trash can. That was the bomb, I guess. But I'm a big believer in SROs. As we grow, we might need more. There is a cost, with the school board as well, the schools as well as the village would be paying. But I think public safety, having responded to Sandy Hook, I'm very aware and very, very much on board with making sure that our children have safety. There are too many school shootings.
Thank you, Pastor. Kristen.
I'm a mom with a young child, so school safety is very important to me. Earlier today, I spoke with School Board President Russ Ewert, and he confirmed that there's been no formal meetings between the village board and the school board in many years. So I think a great starting point would be to set a meeting up between the boards and invite community and relevant organizations, such as the police, to join. In order to keep our community safe, we need to open the lines of communication, and I'll do that as your trustee.
Thank you. Moving on to the next question. This will be a 1-minute response, and Kristen, you'll be first on this one. With the predicted housing growth in Germantown, what types of housing should be focused on and why?
Our village should focus on owner-occupied condos and single-family homes on lot sizes consistent with the surrounding neighborhoods. We do not need more high-density housing that brings with it substantial increases to taxes. Rental properties pay far less taxes per unit than a single-family home does. The lower tax revenue from those living in high-density housing will be felt by owner-occupied housing, whose taxes will rise. Germantown's only grown by 1.47% yearly since the 2000 census. The stress already on public services right now created the need for the public safety referendum. Adding more rentals or high-density housing would overwhelm these services even more, along with our schools. We should be thoughtful about zoning decisions, making sure any new housing fits the needs of the residents without negatively impacting property values or quality of life.
Kristen, thank you very much. Pastor Greg?
I feel differently about that. Because I've knocked on a lot of doors and I've responded in the middle of the night to people in all kinds of housing. I believe that Germantown is, if we really pay attention to our citizenry, we are a very diverse community. Some people starting out. I talked to two boys at Roberts, which is very supportive of law enforcement. And I asked him where he lived, if he lived in what district. He said, I live in District 4. But he said about 5 of us have to live in a house in order to afford to live here. You know, a lot of our young people would like to live here. My daughter being one of them, it's living in addition on our house because it costs too much to live. I think we should be able to have very well thought out public housing for other people, affordable housing, because we aren't a country club.
Thank you, Pastor Greg. I'm going to address this question to you first on the next one. And this is a 2-minute response. And it is a follow-up to the housing question as to what types of housing. It's how would you recommend addressing the impact on public services regarding the predicted housing growth within Germantown?
Oh, well, I can speak intimately the fact that police are called everywhere. Public housing, to be sure. We also have jurisdiction of the trailer park off of 41. We have 7 miles of 41 that we're responsible for. But to think that only our problems occur in high-density housing, so to speak, would be wrong. That is just not true. We've gone to domestic violences in $1 million homes. People have problems everywhere. People die, they have heart attacks. And indeed, there is an increase. But with growth, regardless of whether it's single-family homes or whether it's, assisted living homes, any kind of home, there's going to be an increased need for public service, but public safety and public service. That's just what growing communities have.
Thank you, Pastor Greg. Kristen?
Can you please repeat the question?
Certainly.
Thanks.
I just want to make sure I address it in the same fashion. But with the housing that has been discussed, both in the previous question and the predicted housing growth, how would you address the impact on public services as a result of that?
Okay, thanks. I have not seen a formal plan as to date, and although the public safety referendum passed for additional staff, there doesn't seem to be a formal strategic plan for that. We need to gather key stakeholders to develop a plan based on neighborhoods, districts, and corridors within the village and review the volume of development at varied levels. Then we need to assess the needs in each neighborhood, district, and corridor, including public services like police, fire, public works, schools, and the library. Finally, we need to evaluate the various scenarios with varied development levels to understand the impacts and strains on our public services and propose solutions that are financially and economically feasible. Thanks.
Thank you. Kristen, you are up next on this one. This is not on your list. It's not on your list, but we've talked about things that you would change or do differently within. And we asked the school board candidates this question as well, but what are the 2 or 3 things that you think the village of Germantown does really well? It's a reason that you're here. What does the village do well? So Kristen, you are up first. By all means, both of you take a moment. It is a 1-minute response.
So I think that Germantown does a wonderful job with parks. I think that my child and my family and I, we love going to the various different parks and walking paths, biking trails that connect all the various parks. And I think that the other thing that we do really well that we enjoy as a family, and again, my child enjoys a ton, is the library. They are always adding more books, adding more services. They have story times, so many different events, and then things like crafts and the boxes that they have. I think that a lot of people aren't aware of all the services and the products that you can get at the library. And that's something that we could really enhance and promote as a community for young families.
Kristen, thank you. Pastor Greg.
I could help you with that one on regarding the kids and stuff at the library. Seriously, our libraries are wonderful. We agree on that. One of the things, Germantown, having been here since '88, it really invested in this community in so many ways. I like how a community comes together in a crisis, for one. I remember when 9/11 happened, we had a candlelight service at the high school. They opened their doors and they asked me to be the primary speaker. And other kinds of things. People can pull together. And I really sense that sense of community in Germantown, which is why I also support the Village Center project, because I really think we need to do whatever we can to provide a place and a space for people of all ages to get together. My Fest could be held there. I love our My Fest celebration, the German identity, even though I've only got a little bit of Deutsch in me. So there's so many different things, and the people are wonderful, and it's a diverse community.
Thank you both. We're going to move on to the last question of the evening, and then we'll move into your closing comments. And you will have the first shot at the last question, okay? And this one brings us back to the financial aspect a bit of the village. And this is one that we did pose to the village president candidates as well. And it's, what steps would you take to ensure, it's not an implication of, to ensure financial transparency from the village board and staff? So what steps would you take to ensure financial transparency from the village board and the staff?
Well, the first word that comes up to me is listen. Listening to understand what their needs are. That also implies relationship, getting to know them, getting to know what their needs are, but also keeping in the balance, what is financially feasible to do. I like to approach things from the middle, do critical thinking, not just come in, for one perspective and say everything's bad, because there are a lot of good things. And so I would approach that listening. And I think, well, for lack of a better word, I'll come back to it again. Relationship, establishing relationship, because we can't just do things via email. We actually have to meet with people. And that's what I'm all about.
Pastor Greg, thank you. Kristen.
Financial transparency is one of my top priorities, and it starts with making village finances clear, accessible, and easy for residents to understand. I'll push for straightforward financial reporting, including clear budget breakdowns and spending justifications. Residents shouldn't have to dig through complicated documents just to figure out where their tax dollars are going. Next, I'll advocate for regular financial updates at board meetings and to discuss financial matters in open meetings rather than behind closed doors. Additionally, I support recording all meetings because currently not all meetings are being recorded. Transparency isn't just about making information available, it's also about making it understandable. Finally, to improve communication, I would suggest implementing a recurring emailed newsletter from the village administrator to residents, summarizing things like key issues, discussions, decisions, status of projects, and any issues. Transparency builds trust, and I'm committed to making sure residents stay informed and engaged. Thanks.
Thank you very much for going through the myriad of questions and the myriad of topics as well. We always try to anticipate the topics that would be of interest, of course, for Germantown, and we look for those types of questions coming from the citizens of the community. So it's wonderful. Closing statements. 2 minutes, up to 2 minutes. And Kristen, you would be first on that, followed by Pastor Greg.
Thank you all for being here tonight or tuning in and taking time to be involved in your community's future. I decided to run for village trustee because we need stronger financial oversight, better development planning, and a local government that works for residents, not against them. Our village is at a crossroads. We have a rich history, but that history is being threatened by bad deals and wasteful spending. We need leaders who will prioritize financial responsibility, smart growth, and transparency. I believe we can lower debt, reduce tax burdens, and bring accountability back to our local government. These are serious issues that require real solutions, not just more of the same. I'm a concerned resident, just like you, who wants to see our village thrive. As your elected official, I promise to work to bring transparency, accountability, and financial responsibility to our board, be responsive to resident input and inquiries, and fight to ensure our tax dollars are spent wisely. The election is about the future of Germantown, and I believe that we can turn things around with the right leadership. Let's restore trust, demand better, and move Germantown forward. I'd like to take a moment to thank the Germantown Chamber of Commerce for hosting, for our moderator, for residents that submitted questions, and to my opponent and the other candidates here tonight for answering resident questions. And to all residents, thank you for being here tonight, and I look forward to the opportunity to serve you. I ask for your trust, your support, and most importantly, your vote on April 1st, and I'd be honored to be your village trustee for District 4. Thank you.
Pastor Greg?
Could you repeat the question? I'm hard of hearing, old guy.
Your closing comments, sir.
My closing comments. I have a rich history. Some people say I've been here too long, but there's something that comes with experience and lots of different roles in leadership. I bring a very balanced perspective to everything I do. And yes, I'm going to use that word again, critical thinking ability. There are going to be some decisions that I disagree with on some people. I mean, that's human nature. But somebody once said when I was going to graduate school that uniformity is petrified solidarity. Now, what that means, if we all thought alike, if we all wanted exactly the same things, and wanted nobody to be different than us, that would die. We are a diverse community, and I want to be a candidate that will listen to people, whether you're poor, living in in a small apartment, whether you're one of those 5 guys that's living in that house struggling to survive and working at Roberts, which is a great restaurant, by the way. I want to be that for all people, and I believe I can be fair to both sides. I don't come with an agenda. I think some people come with an agenda. I do not come with an agenda, and I think that's a good thing, to not be able to come with an agenda. I want to support people, whether you're progressive and whether you're conservative, or whether you're independent like me. So I will end it at that. I want to thank all of you for coming. I want to thank all of you for your engagement, to be willing to sit through these sometimes boring questions or responses we give, listening to old guys like me and young people like her who have a lot of financial knowledge. So anyway, I want to thank all of you and the Chamber of Commerce. It's been a great night. I'm very hopeful for the future. I really am.
Well, I want to thank all of our candidates this evening, but most importantly, I think you should give yourselves a round of applause. And now pronounce you some of the most knowledgeable leaders in Germantown. As we said before, most of the candidates are willing to stick around for some questions if you have them. That makes sense. And so, advantage of that as well. Thank you, everyone. You may. Thank you both. Nice job. You know, it's the difference of work for the first time. Sure, I'll put it on social media.